All right, let's go ahead and start today's notes over adding and subtracting rational fractions. Don't forget your builders are due tomorrow, your test review is due next Thursday, and your Imagine Math is due October 28th. In our warm-up, we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators, so something you did in 5th grade. However, the difference is now we have negatives and positives. So in number 1, we're going to keep the denominator, but in this case, we're going to subtract them. So we're going to subtract them because they have different signs. So it's going to be 7/8 minus 3/8, which gives us 4/8. We need to simplify that. So we get 1/2. And then don't forget, we got to keep the sign of the bigger number. And in this case, the sign of the bigger number is negative. So it's going to be a negative 1/2. So negative 1/2. Don't forget that. Number 2, we have the same signs here, so we're going to be adding these. We're going to still keep the denominator the same. So in this case, we got negative 1 plus negative 5. And we keep the denominator the same. So we get negative 6/9. And then we're going to simplify that. Remember, you always need to simplify. So we get negative 2/3. So just a little review from 5th grade there. Number 3, it says, in Mr. Navarro's first period class, 17/28 of the students got an A on their math test. In his second period class, 11/28 of the students got an A. What fraction more of the students got an A in Mr. Navarro's first period class than in his second period class? So we see our keywords there expressed in simplest form. So our keywords, we got more, than, and remember when you see that, it almost goes backwards. So what fraction more of the students got an A in Mr. Navarro's first period class than in his second period class? So we're just going to be subtracting those. So first period class, we have, let's get our highlighter out here. So first period class is this one. And then our second period class is this one. And we're going to subtract these because it's more than. So 17/28 minus 11/28, the denominators are the same. So we're going to keep our denominators the same. We're just going to subtract the numerators. And we get 6/28. They're both even, so we can simplify it down. We can divide it by 2. And we get 3/14. 3/14 more. So let's go ahead and start our notes now. To add or subtract fractions with different denominators. So in this case, it's a little different than 5th grade because our denominators are different. However, you have, I believe you've learned how to add and subtract fractions in 5th grade with different denominators. The only difference now is you have negatives and positives, but I could be wrong. So add or subtract as with like fractions. If necessary, simplify the sum or difference. So rename the fractions using the least common denominator is the key. You need to make sure that you find a common denominator, and then you do everything we just did before there. So look at number 1. We do not have a common denominator. This should be mental math for you guys. Our common denominator will be 4. So let's go ahead and rewrite these fractions to where they have the same common denominator. So we have 1/2, and I'm going to do them vertically in this time. I'll switch it up here and there for those of you that do things differently. And we have 1/4. We're going to multiply this one times 2, which gives us 2/4. So we get 2/4. And then this one we're just going to keep the same. Remember, we're adding. So we're adding 1/4. Our denominators stay the same. So our final answer is 3/4. And we don't need to simplify that one. If you look at the next one, our denominators are different. And this one's mental math as well. Our common denominator is going to be 10. So we're going to rewrite these. But if you notice here, we have a negative and a positive. So we're going to be subtracting these. we're going to be subtracting these. Let's go ahead and rewrite them first. So we have 9/10, so we know which one's bigger. We have 9/10, a little smaller, plus a negative 1/2. Common denominator is going to be 10. So we've got 9/10 and 5/10. In this case, we're going to be subtracting them because the signs are different. So we get 4/10. And when we simplify that, we get 2/5. But we need to go back and look and see which sign was bigger. And in this case, 9/10 is bigger, so the sign is positive. So our answer is going to stay positive. Our answer is going to stay positive. And then finally, we got negative 2/7 plus a negative 1/4. In this case, I'll go ahead and write out the common multiple, the multiples, so that you can see which one's the common denominator. So I'm going to do it up here so we have some room. We have 4, we have 7. I'm going to start with the bigger number. Do that a couple times. 3 times. And you should be able to see it by now. 7 times 4, which is 28. We'll do the 4 here. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and 28. And our common multiple is 28. So we're going to need to be changing both of these fractions. But thankfully we can add these because they're both negative. So we're going to rewrite them. We got 2/7. And we want 28 at the bottom, so times 4. That gives us 8 over 28. And then we have 1/4. I mean, these are negatives, but we'll do that at the end. Times 7, which gives us 7 over 28. We're going to go ahead and add those both up. That gives us 15 over 28. And they're both negative, so our answer is going to be negative. Don't forget that negative at the end, because at the beginning we had 2 negatives there, so don't forget that. Let's keep going. These ones you want to make sure that you go ahead and try on your own before watching me do them. So you want to make sure that you know how to do these on your own first. Then I would go ahead and do it with me, or review it. In this case, this is mental math. I'm going to do it underneath this time, or I'm going to go every other. So I have 1/6 plus, and 2/3. Actually, I'll do it vertically. So we got 1/6. We got 2/3. Our common denominator is going to be 6. So let's go ahead and rewrite these. We still have our 1/6. In this case, we have 4/6. They have the same signs. Easy one. Add the numerators. Keep the denominator, and we get 5/6. The next one should be pretty obvious as well. The common denominator would be 12. 3, 6, 9, 12. 4, 8, 12. So 12 is our common denominator, so we need to rewrite these. But don't forget, they have the same signs. So don't forget that. So because they have the same signs, we're going to be adding them, and we're going to keep the sign at the end. I have negative 1/3, negative 1/4 here. We're going to add these. We need to find a common denominator of 12. So in this case, we have 4 over 4, so negative 4/12. I'm going to rewrite the negative at the end. And in this one, I have 3/12. Add the numerators. Keep the sign from the beginning. Since they're both negatives, our answer is negative 7/12. On C, I'm going to do my multiples of 4 until I pretty much can think of a multiple of 9. We got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. I think you'll be able to notice that it's just going to be 4 times 9. Or you can do your multiples of 9. 9, 18, 4 doesn't go into 18, 27, 36. So it's 36. They have different signs. Because they have different signs, there's only one there's only one negative, so we're going to be subtracting these. Let's go ahead and rewrite them first so we know which one to put on top. In this case, it should be kind of obvious that 3/4 is bigger than 5/9. So I'm going to go ahead and write 3/4, and if I'm wrong, I can rewrite it. If I'm wrong, I'll rewrite it. So 3/4 on top, 5/9 on bottom. And our common denominator, remember, is 36. So I'm trying to get something with the 36 on the bottom. So in the first one, I'm going to multiply by 9 over 9. The second one, I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4. So I have 27 over 36. And I have 20 over 36. We're going to subtract these because they have different signs. So it's going to be 27 minus 20. And then we go to the beginning. Remember, this one is bigger. This one had the negative. So our final answer is going to be negative. The absolute value of 3/4 is bigger. So there you have it. Hopefully you were able to get those right. Let's take a look at the next ones. Remember, when you're subtracting integers, that you want to add the opposite. So for the first one, we're going to rewrite it first. We have negative 2/3, and we're going to add the opposite. So plus a negative 1/2. In this case, both of our signs are the same, so we're going to be adding these fractions, and then we're going to keep the negative at the end. So we have 2/3 and 1/2. In this case, our common denominator is going to be 6. So let's rewrite these so that we can have 6 at the bottom. And there we have it. We're going to add them and keep the sign at the end. When you have an improper fraction like you see here, keep it as an improper fraction. When you get older, they're not going to want you to change it to a mixed number. So you just want to go ahead and keep it as an improper fraction. It would the same answer would be negative 1 and 1/6, but you don't have to do that. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. So remember, we're going to add the opposite. So in this case, it changes it out to where it's 3/8 plus 1/4. We can't add these yet because they don't have a common denominator. So let's go ahead and change it to where they have a common denominator. And our common denominator will be 8. So 2/8 there. And we're just going to add them up. Add the numerators, keep the denominator. So 3 plus 2, which is 5. Keep the denominator. And there you have it. 5/8 is your answer. And then number 6. We're going to need to add the opposite, so we're going to keep the original negative 3/5. We're going to change the subtraction to an addition. We're going to change negative 5/6 to a positive 5/6. Now we need to find a common denominator. In this case, the common denominator is 30. Just list out your multiples, and you'll see that 30 is the lowest common denominator. So let's go ahead and rewrite these to where 30 is the lowest common denominator. So that they have 30 as a denominator. So negative 3/5. Now you notice at the top here, the signs are different. So we're going to be subtracting. And you should be able to tell that 5/6 is bigger than 3/5. So I'm going to go ahead and put 5/6 on the top. Once again, if I'm wrong, or if you're wrong and you put the wrong one on the top, that's fine. You can just change it around to where it's easier for you. So in this case, we have 5/6 on top and 3/5 on bottom because I'm subtracting them. they have different signs. So I'm going to be subtracting these. I want a common denominator. In this case, it's 30. So I'm going to be multiplying times 5. And I'm going to multiply this one by 6 so that I can get 30 at the bottom. Now remember, we're subtracting these because the signs are different. And then at the end, we're going to keep the sign of the bigger original. And in this case, 5, 6 is bigger. 5, 6 is positive. So my answer is going to be a positive 7/30. My answer is going to be a positive 7/30. Let's look at the next one. Negative 5/8 minus 1/4. Once again, you're going to want to change it to where you're adding the opposite. So we have negative 5/8. We're going to change it to addition. We're going to take the opposite of 1/4, which is negative 1/4. Now you'll see that the signs are the same, so we're going to be adding these. And then we're going to keep the negative at the end and put it back at the end. So 5/8 plus 1/4. The common denominator is going to be 8. So we have 5/8 plus 2/8. Add the numerators, we get 7. And once again, we're going to put the negative from the beginning. So my answer is going to be negative 7/8. So this next problem, we have negative 3/4 minus 1/3. So we're going to have to add the opposite. So let's set it up again. So negative 3/4. We're going to change the subtraction to an addition, and then the opposite of 1/3, which is negative 1/3. Now you'll notice that they're the same signs, so we're going to be adding them and keeping the negative for our answer. So we'll be adding these. We need to find a common denominator, and you'll see that the common denominator is 12. So let's rewrite our fractions with 12 as our denominator. So for this one, we're going to multiply 3/3 to get to 12, which is 9/12. This one, we're going to multiply by 4/4, which is equal to 4/12. Remember, we're adding these, and we're going to keep the negative for our answer. So 9 plus 4 is 13. Keep our denominator, and remember the answer is negative because we are keeping our negative sign from the beginning. Keep it as an improper fraction. You do not have to change it to a mixed number. Let's look at F. So let's rewrite this to be an addition problem. So we have 1/2. We're going to change it to an addition sign, and we're going to take the opposite. So we're adding the opposite. So instead of negative 2/5, it's a positive 2/5. Now we need a common denominator. We're just adding these now. Common denominator. So we got 1/2, 2/5. The common denominator is 10. So for the first one, we're going to multiply by 5/5, which gives us 5/10. Remember, we're adding. And then for the second one here, 2/5, we're going to multiply by 2/2. That gives us 4/10. Once we add those up, add the numerators, we get 9. Keep the denominator. And they were positive, so our answer is 9/10. There you have that one. And then finally we have our word problem here. Cassandra cuts 5 1/16 inch off the top of a photo and 3/8 inch off the bottom. How much shorter is the total height of the photo now? So how much shorter is the total height of the photo now? There's quite a bit going on here. I would draw a picture so that you can answer this question. So we got a couple things going on here. We got how much shorter is the total height. So total height So our problem is going to be total height. Let's take a look here. So she cuts. So I'm going to draw a picture here. We got a photo. Here's our photo. She's cutting off 5/16 off the top and 3/8 off the bottom. So we're trying to figure out how much is left, how much shorter it is. So our total is 16 over 16, and we're subtracting those two. So the first thing I'm going to do is add up what we cut off, and then I'm going to subtract that from the total, which is 1 whole, which is 16 over 16 in this case. So we're going to add up the first we're going to add them up. Now there's multiple ways to do this. This is not the only way to do it. You can take 16 over 16 and just subtract 5/16 and subtract 3/8 as well. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add up what we cut off. So plus 3/8. Our common denominator here is 16. So I need to multiply the bottom one by 2 over 2. So we got 5/16 plus 6/16, which is 11/16. That's how much we're cutting off from the photo. So 11/16. Remember, the total photo is 16 over 16, 1 whole. 1 whole, 16 over 16, 1 over 1, which is 16 over 16. So we're subtracting 11/16. So my final answer is 5/16. We have 5/16 left. If you have any questions about any of this, make sure you message your teacher or ask them in class if you're in person. Otherwise, y'all have a wonderful day.